young men, our women, our daughters. When God made them, he loved them so much that when they get to heaven, he gave them more authority than that of all of his angels. And when he saw fit that I should raise one, well, I made her a princess. And everything I've done thus far, well, it's been just to invest. Like ensure she has a life full of happiness. And it's disturbing to think that one day I'm going to have to turn her over to a prince that would treat her less. I mean, after all of my hard work, why am I going to willingly give my daughter over to someone who's going to willingly give her less than his very best? You know what you're saying, Ken? All fathers feel like their daughters deserve the best. But men, we're all sons of a woman who obviously had to be someone's daughter. I was raised with 4 sisters, so I do believe all daughters deserve to be loved to the very essence of the word. Or if you take the word love and break it down to the very fundamental of its meaning. See, the Bible defines love as though it is patient. It says love is kind. But it seems like as a culture, we're trying to redefine love as though it is something demeaning. And knowing this, I have no faith in my daughter finding a true prince, because all I hear streaming across the radios are people who willingly call my princess their bitches, their thoughts, their hoes. Now, as a father, you tend to make it your job to keep your daughters covered, but it seems like as a culture, you're making it your job to keep our daughters exposed. No means just taking off their clothes. See, we will expose a black woman's soul in front of a nation that has already raped and exposed their mothers' mothers and great-grandmothers when they were back on the plantation. Now, you would think that free, we turn our backs on the plantation. But in order to get slave money, we willingly offer the slave master the same mental stimulation. Anytime you can go to Facebook and find our princesses fighting, or Pornhub as a subject of his late night masturbation. And with so many fathers, you think that's a subject of mass frustration, because that puts our daughters back in slavery. Thus, young men, we are all born back on the plantation. And it's not what God intended, because when God made them, our women, our daughters, he loved them so much that when they get to heaven, he gave them more authority than that of all of his angels. When he saw fit that I should now have 3, well, I made each one a princess. And there's no need for a DNA test. See, I already know me and my oldest daughter, we don't share the same DNA. But who could say, or what scientists could say, because we don't have the exact same blood, we can't have the exact same love. And if you could test love, then swab that and put that on the line, because the blood I willingly shed for her, well, that says that my daughter is mine. And I know a lot of men are consumed with pride, but listen, brothers, we don't always have the time to be concerned if we were inside of their mothers at the very second that they were conceived. See, maybe God needs us to stand on the side of their mothers throughout their lives to make sure that they can achieve. And I believe that that's what makes her my child. So fuck our absent father's DNA. My happiness would say on some days, me and my daughter have the exact same smile. And if you put something in front of us that we don't like, we're going to give you the exact same look. And I find it funny that a culture that prides itself on being hustlers and crooks, when it comes to your children, you want to run into court, get the lowest child support, then become legitimate and go by the books, which is leaving a whole race of daughters that are being led out to slaughter because Negroes would rather pimp hoes than they would be fathers. And we'd rather call them side pieces, bitch, stots, and hoes than we would call them sweethearts, darlings, princesses, and daughters. Knowing this, when I started to write this poem, I was like, don't even bother. See, I know Ken's words, well, they're not going to cause every simple-minded person to change. So for me and my homeboys, let me say, if you ever come across a real man's daughter, yeah, you better be prepared to treat her the same as we did. And if you accidentally get her pregnant, I hope you accidentally prepared to help her take care of y'all's kid, because for the last 27 years, mine has had a father that's been accidentally prepared to do a bid. And with this, I insist we stop calling our children's mothers our babies' mothers, disrespecting the women who ushered into the world one of the reasons that God would have us exist. And if anyone disrespects my son's mother, that still gets me pissed. And being a new Christian, let me tell you, I haven't figured out how to stop resolving a few problems with my fist, because they were all their father's princess. And you can do this while having a significant other, as long as you make sure there's no contest. See, you have to make sure the love you give her is further superior than that of all the rest. But every night, man, we need to take all the women in our lives in our hands and clutch those hands tight towards our chest and make sure that we exude what it means to be a father, a son, a brother, a nephew, an uncle, and every last one of our dying steps. Because when God made them, our women, our daughters, see, he loved them so much that when they get to heaven, he gave them more authority than that of all of his angels. And when he saw fit that I should raise now 3, I made each one a princess.